Hey there, Danielle Matthews here. I'm coming to you live from Florida. If you're new to my content, I help people that are on a healing journey. I have a system that is proven to help restore cellular health, release trauma, and reset your nervous system. I absolutely love supporting people. I've helped hundreds from all over the world. And one of the things that I love to do is book club because I think when we learn from the greats, people that have walked the path ahead of us, quite honestly, when we get a mentor, we collapse time. We're able to learn things faster. They've, kind of navigated space before us. And Michael Singer, this book called The Untethered Soul, Michael Singer is an incredible soul that since longer than I've been alive, he has been on this path and learning about the inner dimensions of life. Okay, so he really talks about practical, what I would say are spiritual principles to help you understand your mind, your body. And I'm taking us chapter by chapter through this book to have a conversation to help enlighten all of us. And this chapter is all about triggers. So how many of you have been triggered? Hey, Tina. Guys, let me know when you're here. Jump on. If you're here live, let me know. Always fun to interact and see who's engaged with this and who's reading the book along the way. But this chapter was all about how we're triggered, why we're triggered, and what's actually going on internally. Because a lot of times we blame the person, right? This person at my work, this person that cut me off, this, family member of mine. Like, they're such a mess. Like, they're such a jerk. They're always causing X, Y, and Z issue, and you feel icky inside. They're triggering you. And what he has to offer in this chapter, quite honestly, this is what I've been studying as well for the last 8 years with my spiritual teacher, is the notion that actually the triggers, it's something inside of you. It's hitting up against something inside of you. And so it's learning, well, how did those things even get implanted inside of me? And how do I get rid of them so that I'm not triggered by life? So that I can have a happy existence, right? So that everything can flow nicely. That's really what this chapter got into. So I'm wondering, last chapter we talked all about having an open heart and that really is the secret to life. And I want to ask you this. Have you ever spent time trying to understand your heart? Hey, Charlotte, good to see you. Put a 1 in the chat if you have. I feel like, no. Like most of us, and especially personal development, right? Personal development is huge these days. The amount of coaches, it's out the wazoo. But they're all mostly talking about the mind, helping you understand the mind. Hey, Angela. Hey, Charlotte. Hey, Karen. So, yeah, have you ever spent time trying to understand the heart? So some of you have, and some of you have not, right? I have not. It was not something that I really knew that I was supposed to be looking at, right? Like, no one talks about it, okay? The mind is sort of glorified, right? How smart you are, how capable you are, how much you can push yourself, how much you can, get rid of fears and all that stuff. Right? It's always about the mind, right, Angela? Always about the mind. It's always about the mind. And what I teach, what I've learned along my own journey has been that the mind can only get us so far. And it's really when you quiet the mind that you tap into the real potential. And this is the potential that lives in the heart space. And is actually, I would say, your divine potential. So, oh wow, look over there on Instagram, it's making all sorts of bubbles. I just did a thumbs up unintentionally. So anyway, we know our heart space, right? All of you might say I've never studied it, but you're intimately familiar with it, right? Because you say all the time, like, I feel X way, right? When your heart opens, you fall in love. How many of you have fallen in love? I think everybody on here listening, right? Well, you've encountered your heart space then. How many have felt it close? How many have fallen out of love? Yep, we've all encountered that too, I would say. How many of us have been hurt? Have gotten angry? All right, have just numbed out, feel empty. That's your heart space. And you are, as we know, the observer of all of this. None of that is you, but that's the heart. Just like we're really intimately familiar with our mind because it's really freaking chatty, the heart is the emotional space, right? I don't think I'm surprising anyone when I say that. But the heart is actually an energy center. So who has studied like the chakra system, the energy centers of the body? Put a 1 in the chat if you have. If you've studied the energy centers of the body. This is something I spent some time with. I find it fascinating. I think there's a lot of ancient wisdom, like the anatomy that was used in ancient times to understand the body. We've lost a lot of that. I think in modern times, talking in the West, right, we really get into like the biology and the chemistry and everything in the physical body. Like we've gotten to know that super, super well. But in ancient times, before we had the microscopes and the technology, they really observed the body and they started to understand things about this incredible vessel that is beyond the physical stuff. Okay, and like what animates the body? So what the yogis say, and I have studied these teachings for years, and it just makes sense, right? And I've had the kinesthetic experience to go along with it. But they say that there's the life force comes into our system through your heart, through the energy center at the heart. And then the heart takes that and puts the energy up and down through the body to the other centers. And there's like, 7 chakras and there's a million energy channels and all this stuff. We're not getting into that. But I want you to understand that the heart assimilates the energy. That's what gives this body life. When you die, guess what happens? You're not connected to that life force anymore. And so your physical being is gone. That energy didn't die though. That energy is still there, right? This is also the liberator. This is the opening. In Mastery yesterday, we talked all about this. For those of you in Inner Management Mastery right now, it's a phenomenal conversation. But you have felt this energy center before. I guarantee that you have. And if you think about what it's like to feel love in your heart, think about what it's like to feel inspiration, to feel enthusiasm, to pour your heart into something. You've all been there. Think about what it feels like when you have abundant energy. It's like this wellspring. You're strong, you're confident. All of that happens because of the energy at the heart center. That's where it comes from. You don't will it into action. That is intrinsic energy that's coming through you. And then the opposite can happen. It can close. So how many of you have had a conversation and then politics came up? And all of a sudden, somebody said something and you were like, poof, like you feel your heart close. Like, I liked you till you just said that, right? And it could be, oh my God, I can't believe you voted for Biden. Oh my God, I can't believe you voted for Trump. Oh my God, I can't believe you got the vaccine. Oh my God, I can't believe you didn't get the vaccine. Like, what are all the things of our times right now, right? These are like really polarizing things. And I would put forth that very likely your heart has shut to people when you realize like, oh, you did that. Oh, you think that way, right? It happens. The heart shuts. Other things might not be politics or that stuff for you, but it's common. So that's why I'm pointing it out. Common thing for us. You can be experiencing great feelings of love for somebody, being in the presence of them, and then they say something you don't like, and boom, the heart closes. So what's causing this? I think this is a question none of us ask. We just accept that like, oh, boom, done. But why? Like, why did it close? What was it that closed? Because we know from the previous chapter and from last week, having an open heart is the secret to happiness. And that we're choosing. Like, we choose to close our heart. When we set boundaries and other things, we're limiting ourselves and when our heart is allowed to be open. So what Mickey gets into here is he says the heart closes because it becomes blocked by something that is stored, unfinished energy patterns. And he gives, a bunch of reasons why in science, these things happen and that, biologically we can talk about that everything is energy, right? Like I don't actually see you all, like my eyes are like cameras. It's taking in then energetic impulses, telling my brain something, and it's crazy. Everything is energy, all right? And what he's saying is that if the energy patterns that are coming into your psyche create disturbance, you will resist them and not allow them to pass through. And when you do this, the energy patterns actually get blocked within you. All right. The best way that this has ever been explained to me, I thought Mickey did a decent job, but I'm a visual person. Think about it like a tube. Okay. So your body, you're like a tube, and energy events are flowing through. The things you're seeing, the interactions, the feeling, all this stuff, it's all flowing through. Right. And what he's saying is that at some point, something happens where we say, whoop, you can't flow through. And we shut it down. All right, we block the flow of energy through the tube. And he's saying that either we've intentionally blocked it or it was doing its own thing going through the tube and it's hit something. It's hit something in the way. There is a blockage in the way, and so it's not able to fully process. Or it hits that blockage, and whatever that block was, boom, you're feeling it. You're getting ticked off. You're getting angry. You're getting jealous. You're getting whatever emotion, right? Sad, out of nowhere. And it's because there's this block in the tube. You with me? Put a 5 in the chat if you're with me. Like, just high five me. This is different, right? This is a different understanding, but this is, I would say, the anatomy of your energy body, okay, and your heart space, which is the thing that you got to figure out if you want life to be non-triggering. All right. So, how this system works? He says this. I'm on page 51. Okay. So Charlotte, Karen, good, you're with me. Good, you're with me. Okay. So this is how the overall system of perception is meant to work. It's meant to take things in and allow experiences to come in, and then you let them pass through. Like, that's how we're supposed to live life. And now I'm in this moment and this is happening, and now I'm in this moment and this is happening, and they're all just moments, and they're all just happening, and they actually have no, they're not for or against you, right? Nothing is happening that is for or against you, but you take it personally. And we're going to get into why you take it personally. It has to do with that block that it got hit in. All right. So what it means to live life is to experience the moment that is passing through you and then experience the next moment. This is how awakened beings live. This is what it means by living in the now, by being present, right? You're just with every moment as it is, not needing it to be different. But as we know, moments happen and we don't like them and we get triggered. And then we've lost our peace. We're not enlightened, right? Imagine if you were so fully present, though, during each experience of life that it was touching you to the depth of your being. This is where all of us are trying to go, right? To be fully present, to be fully open, to be fully receptive. This is what we're wanting. But things are get stuck in there, and so we're not able to do it. At a physical level, nothing is different when an energy event comes in, but at a mental level, it hits something in us, all right? And your heart and your mind become fixated because there's this blockage. And life now has to compete with all of the BS that your mind is saying. So he used this example of you're driving down the highway and everything's fine, and the trees are passing and the cars are passing and the signs are passing and whatever, and then a blue Mustang passes by, and out of the corner of your eye, you think that it is your girlfriend, and that she's like hugging someone else in the car. And your mind is like, what the what? And it's going blah, 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 blah. You know, no, it wasn't her, it couldn't be her, whatever. But everything was the same. It was just a car, but now it's hit up against something because you have a feeling about this. There's something, you know, maybe you've been hurt in the past. Someone's cheated on you in the past. Now your brain is, it's going wild. All right, and now you're not in the present moment. Now you're not accepting the present moment. Now everything is not just flowing through the tube. Now it's gotten hit up against something and something has exploded. And what this is called, in yoga, they call it a samskara. When I teach in Inner Management Mastery, this is what I've taught you all. It's a grunty, right? This is the stuff that's in there. And when it gets hit, it doesn't feel good, okay? And what we do typically, because we don't know, right? We're not aware of this blocked energy. When we run into it, typically the first thing that we do is we try to think our way through it. We try to will ourselves through it. No, it couldn't have been her. She's over there right now. Like, there's no way it was even her car. Like, I'm just being crazy. It wasn't even a blonde. She's brunette. Like, you try to like think your way through it. All right. And you process it at the level of the mind. And if the mind can't work its way through it, the next thing you do is you get emotional, right? This is why we have emotional reactions. It's because the heart is trying to process it. And so we feel this emotional response. That's what happens next. And then if we can't emotionally process it, right, it gets stuck in our system. And that's when it becomes a grunty, because this energy, if it's gotten stuck, it's hit up against something and it can't flow through, and energy's not created or destroyed. So your mind is trying to process it, not happening. Nope. Your emotions trying to process it, it's not happening. And so all of a sudden that energy starts to turn in on itself and turn in on itself. And this is what gets left, this groove, this impression, this energetic knot, right? That's what's called a grunty, or we call it a samskara, right? This groove that gets set in, and it's a blockage, and it's because of something in our past. And he goes on to talk about this example where, like, Years later, you're now married, you got kids, you're in a car, you're driving, and a blue Mustang goes by, and out of freaking nowhere, you were having a great day, and then boom, that event gets triggered, and you were back 5 years prior feeling jealous about this ex-girlfriend, and you're like, why am I upset right now? Like, this is ridiculous. At the level of the mind, it's ridiculous. The emotions of the heart are being felt, but you're like, I don't know what's going on. I think I'm crazy. Right? You feel a little bit crazy. It's because you don't understand. No, there was blocked energy that never got dealt with. And that's what you need to deal with. When you deal with that, your tube's open. Nothing's ever going to get hit up against anything anymore. Is this making sense? It feels very different than probably anything you've ever been taught, but I think Mickey put it out there in like a pretty good way. Okay? So he says, when a samskara is stimulated, it opens like a flower and begins to release the stored energy. See if you relate to this. Suddenly, flashes of what you experienced from the original event take place and rush into your consciousness. The thoughts, the feelings, sometimes even the smells or other sensory input. The samskara can store a complete snapshot of the event. Has this ever happened to you? Like, maybe you smell a certain perfume and boom, you're like taken back to somewhere. Or you smell a certain food. Or like put in the chat if there's something. Did you relate to this? Like, is there something that you're like, oh yeah, that triggered this? I think with PTSD, right, we see it all the time. After my car accident, I remember I was driving with a friend, and in my car accident, it was very unexpected. Like, the guy passed out, came into my lane, and hit me. Ooh, songs. Yeah, songs. Music. Music will take you right back, right? Usher, last night at the Super Bowl, I'm like, what are these songs? I haven't heard these songs in like a couple decades. Probably not songs you all even like, but yeah, songs that brought back memories, people, experiences, nights out, all this stuff, right? Because it's all there. Rhonda's like, yes. So these things are living there, and it is wild. I know we've all experienced this, but you didn't understand what you experienced. You were experiencing an energy event, all right? And there are two types of blockages. One where it was traumatic, right? Something very upsetting happened. And so it was maybe too much for you, too fast, too soon, too whatever, too intense. You didn't let the energy event flow. You lost a loved one. You lost a job. You lost your health. You lost your house. You lost whatever. A lot of times that stuff gets stuck in there. Stuff when you're a child, when you don't have the emotional intelligence to process it, gets stuck in there. Right? Because you're just out of necessity. You're like, we got to move on. We're just going to tuck that sucker away. And so these things get stuck. They get stuck in the tube. All right. But he also says happy events get stuck in the tube. All right. Stuff that we cling to, like maybe your first love, right? First time you ever fell in love. Like that it's a deep impression that gets left in your being. It's hard to shake that. And and you're like, oh, it's the best love I've ever felt. And you hold on to it and it stays in your heart. It stays in the tube. We're clinging onto something in the past that felt so good. And it's actually, though, preventing us from being open in the now. Fascinating. Fascinating stuff. All right. So it also, right, you're either trying to push energies away because they bother you, or you're trying to keep energies close because you like them. And what he's saying is the alternative is to enjoy life instead of clinging to it or pushing away. Each moment can change you. It can move you to the depth of your being. And the highest state you've ever experienced is simply the result of how open you were in the moment. All right? This can go on all the time. Unending inspiration, unending love, unending openness. That's what it feels like to have an open heart. Like, who wants that? I want that. It sounds pretty darn good. Sounds amazing. So that's what he's wanting. Or that's what he's telling us that, we should be going for. Because who wants to be triggered? I mean, honest to God, like how many times have you just been having a great time and then all of a sudden, boom, like it goes from being a great day to a miserable day. Or maybe it's not you. It happens to your partner or your spouse or your sibling or your parent or your, whatever. And you're like, we were fine. And then they just got triggered by something. And you're like, it was such a great day until that, and you're like, what do you do with that? What do you do with that? It's just ruining things and it doesn't have to. So here's what Mickey says to do. Number one thing is simply allow the experience of life to come in and to pass through your being. Don't cling. Lou says delete the triggers. Exactly. That's what we're getting into. Second thing, if old energies come back up because you were unable to process them before, let them go now. Like Lou said, delete the trigger. Okay? How do you do that? Just open. Relax your heart. Forgive. Laugh. Do anything you want. Just don't push it back down. Right? Feel it. Of course it's going to hurt. That's why it's coming back up. It was a hurt that you didn't allow processing before. If you push it back down, it's just going to take more energy to store it, and you're going to get triggered again by it. So do you want to just keep getting triggered by the thing, or do you want to let it go? You got to let it go. You got to let it go. Okay. He says, I love this. You tell me this. Do you want number 1 or number 2? 1 in the chat or 2 in the chat? Do you want to try to change the world so it doesn't ever disturb your samskara again? Number 1 option. Or number 2, are you willing to go through this process of purification? Which one do you want? Do you want to try to control the outside world, the people, the situations, the circumstances you're in so that you never get triggered? That's number 1 option, which I watch a lot of people do. Or number 2, do you want to go through this process of purification? And just say, I know it might hurt, I know it might be upsetting, but I'm willing to go through it now so that I don't have to go through it later. I'm seeing 2s in the chat. That's why we're all here, right? Because you're on that journey, okay? Rip off the Band-Aid, right, Lou? Rip off the Band-Aid. Like, let's just do it. This just happened to me this last week. I had something happen. An event happened in my business, and I got triggered. And the beauty was, I knew I was triggered, right? I'm like, it has nothing to do with the people that this is about, right? They did something that inside of me, it bumped up against something inside of me. And I knew it was happening. I saw it and I went, okay. But it was interesting because every time I went to message these people and they wanted to have a conversation, I was crying. I was like, I can't talk, I'm crying. And they were like, well, we don't want you to feel bad. And I'm like, it's not about you. This is an internal Danielle problem, not a you problem, right? And it was a little bit confusing, I think, for them. But for me, it was this purification. And it was tears, and a lot of tears. And I'm like, I'm crazy, right? Like, what is going on? And so I asked my teacher about it. Like, I know these teachings, but when you're in the moment, guys, sometimes you just need somebody to tell you what's going on. And I asked my teacher, he's 92, he's been doing this for decades, like his whole life, he dedicated to this. And I said, what's going on? Like, how come I know I'm not mad at them. I know I'm not upset by them, but I can't even have a conversation because I'm just crying, Like, what do I do? And he said, no, Danielle. It's releasing. You're releasing the past event. Whatever they triggered is releasing now. It's wonderful. Let it go. Like, this is the progress. You're doing the work. And I was like, oh, that was my grunty, right? That was whatever past event that they had hit up against was coming through. And so it was just tears and tears and tears. And I mean, to the point where, like I said, I could not have the conversation with them that they were wanting to have because I'm like, I'm just over here like releasing this thing from the past. And it's fabulous, right? I feel so much better now. And eventually, right, I was able to handle that situation and talk and like, they know it's like not them. It was definitely a me thing. But this is incredibly powerful. This is what we do in yoga therapy. How many of you have ever done yoga therapy? High five me. Put a 5 in the chat if you've done it. Rhonda says, our bodies are processing. It's difficult to try not to rationalize it though. Yeah. Like my brain was jumping in and going like, well, did they really do something that was like super offensive? Or like, like my brain was, or like it was really trying to find the past event. That's what my brain was really trying to do. It was really going like, why am I upset? Like, what is it? And no answer was coming. I was rationalizing, no answer was coming. And I know this works. So I'm like, okay, I just have to let the feeling be there. Like it just has to flow. Yeah, I'm seeing lots of 5s in the chat. Guys, yoga therapy, this is what I teach. This is part of the mastery program. This is part of what I've been learning and doing. And this is where you go into the body and you find the grunties. You find the blocks. They're living in your system. Okay, Mickey doesn't talk about that in this chapter, but I'm telling you that I know this to be true. And what you can do when you have physical pain, That's typically a manifestation of energy that's been so caught in your system, it's literally densified, and now you're physically feeling it. When I ask you, where do you hold stress? When you get stressed out, where do you feel it? Put it in the chat. I guarantee you I'm going to see a million different answers, right? Oh, I hold it in my stomach. I get nauseous. Oh, I hold it in my neck. I get tense. I hold it in my low back. I hold it in my knees, right? You guys are holding it in all different places. That's an energy knot. And so in yoga therapy, what we do, shoulders. Yeah, I'm seeing it, right? Shoulders, 2 shoulders. What we're doing, right? I just did this. Rhonda and I had an incredible session last week where we went in. She said, this knot is something that when I go into a massage, they're like, holy cow. And she's like, yeah, I tell my masseuse, like, work on it. Work on it for the whole hour, right? You could just work on that part of my body. And we did a yoga therapy session, and I'll never forget what she said at the end of it. She said, that was better than any massage. It's actually loosened. It's actually moving. And I said, yeah, because it was energy. It wasn't it was energy that had manifested physically. You can try to work on the physical side of it. You're not going to get there. Why do cancers come back for people? Because the emotional disturbance that caused the body to be off and create that dysfunction and dis-ease in the system never got dealt with. You can deal with the physical issue, but guys, if you don't pull it out from the root, like you can trim a tree, I can cut my weeds, but if I don't pull them out at the root, nothing's happening. You got to go down to the root. How do you do that? You go to the grunty, you go to the energy block, you go to the samskara, you go to this packet of energy that Mickey was talking about in this chapter. And when you can go to that and learn to be with that, which is uncomfortable, right? Like, it's uncomfortable because whatever was packaged in there, you feel on the way out. That's why I was crying. You feel the tears. You feel the anger. You feel the whatever feeling. Sometimes you feel joy because you packaged in a happy event, right? And you feel bliss, okay? It's not all the bad stuff. Rhonda says, yes, better than a massage, right? So that's what we do in yoga therapy. Inner management mastery is all about this stuff. That's why I love this book so much. And it's just incredible. So what do? You breathe. And you don't breathe to get rid of, you breathe to be with, to create space for it. Not breathing to, let me get rid of the pain. Breathing to, let me invite it. It's okay that you're here. I'm willing to feel you. That's a very different energy. All right? You feel it. You relax with it. You loosen. You widen the area visually. You watch because it will move. You'll start to feel energy pulses, tingling. You'll feel all sorts of stuff. It is wild. And when you've experienced it, you know what I'm talking about. So some of you I know what I'm talking about. And then you allow it to be. All it needs is, like, it got blocked. All it needs you to do is allow it to be. That's what Mickey's saying too. He's saying if you relax and release, this purification of your heart is a wonderful thing. Okay? Learn to be centered enough to just watch this stuff come up. And once you sit deeply enough inside to stop fighting the stored energy patterns, they'll come up constantly and they'll pass through you. And they'll come up during the day and they'll come up during dreams. Have you ever had a recurring dream? I would say that is energy trying to process. That's something blocked that's trying to be processed. And it's doing it in the sleep state because you're not doing it in the waking state. Our bodies are always trying to restore. Now we know, all of you know, sleep is good for my physical health. Also good for that energy to be able to move through and move the blocks out of our system. Super important. Super, super important. He says, just like the physical body purges bacteria and other foreign matter, the natural flow of your energy will purge the stored patterns from your heart space. Amazing. So he says, set your eyes on the highest state you can imagine and don't take them off. If you slip, get back up. It doesn't matter. The very fact, this is for all of you, take this into your heart, close your eyes, hear what I'm saying. The very fact that you even want to go through this process of freeing the energy flow means you are doing great. You will get there. Just keep going. All right? You can open your eyes. That's what this life is about. Going through the human journey, realizing where we got messed up along the way, releasing that stuff so that we can be in the present moment. We can bring our gifts to the world. We can enjoy this life literally when they say stop and smell the flowers, you will be. You're going to be taking that in on a deeper level. All right. So awesome chapter. I love this stuff. Yes, Flo. Any tips from releasing shoulder pain in particular? So good question, Angela. So if you know of pain that's physically located somewhere in your body, what I would recommend is doing postures, stretching that allows you to feel it. Now, don't go into it where you're like cranking it. Do it where you just start to feel the sensation. And then tell that sensation, it's okay that you're here. Breathe with it. Make space for it. Right? So Angela, would do certain postures. Just feel what triggers it to make you feel it, and then just be with it. And sometimes you need the support of a facilitator to help you, because we so very much want to not deal with pain. That's why it's stuck there anyway, because we're like, yeah, you go under the rug. I'm going to be over here. We avoid it. So just the mentality of it's okay that you're here and I'm willing to feel you will start to shift things. And you'll start to feel a shift in it. And just keep breathing with it. That's all you got to do. And if you need someone to help facilitate that, that's what I do. So I can help that. But it's very, very powerful. And I want you all to be empowered to do it on your own. So you're good to go. But if you need support at the beginning, I'm here. You need more insight into this, Inner Management Mastery is here. That's what we do. Really powerful. So, all right, we're past time. Chapter 7 is next. Chapter 7 is transcending the tendency to close. Because all of us, as I just said, we try to avoid and close. So that'll take us through the end of part 2 of the book. So I'll see you next Monday. I also I'm traveling to Australia. I leave on Wednesday of next week. So book club might get a pause for a bit because noon, this time that we're doing book club is the middle of the night in Australia. So I don't think I'll be able to wake up to do it. I don't think it's going to work out. So I will be in the Telegram chat. I'll let you know when we're going to reschedule, if we're just doing it at a different time, or if we just take a pause from book club and jump back in when I get home. So sorry about that, but traveling to the other side of the world is not the most convenient, not for the noon hour, Eastern. All right. Lots of love. I'll see you guys later. And I am so grateful for your time here, for the discussions here, for the questions here. And let's see. Fritz is saying, is food a trigger? I'm thinking it can be. Yeah, absolutely. Smells, food, all sorts of stuff can trigger anything. If it hints at something that you blocked, you're going to feel it. So yeah, for sure. And then you just rest with that. You go, what is that? I was resting with it, well, why am I upset? I don't know. Don't analyze. Let the upsetness flow. And that's it, releasing. All right. Lots of love, guys. I'll see y'all later.